So ended up driving from Vancouver to Austin. I was here for a month, and in that month we closed our entire round. We were oversubscribed for that round.
Texas right now is like California in the mid-70s, which is that it's booming and everyone's trying to help each other, and there's all these new frontiers.
I believe that we can make the U.S. a smoke-free country, which is below 5% incident rate. The only country that has done that so far is Sweden. And funny enough, in Sweden, over 50% of people that use nicotine products are using white pouches. So we kind of have this crystal ball into how to get there.
I think the average multiple is, between 10 and 15 times revenue. There is no other consumer product category in the world that trades like that.
Austin will go through kind of a rebirth.
Most advanced technology in the world, and if you can't actually build it or ship it, then what's the point?
You need storytellers who are able to paint the picture of what's happening at the frontiers of technology.
The U.S. needs to get back more to that and less like lawyerish and more we're building stuff.
The frontier isn't just a place, it's forged in the fire. Welcome to Austin Next.
Max, Jake, welcome to Austin Next.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to jump right into it.
Okay.
Explain to me what Sesh is and how is it different than like tobacco, nicotine things of the past? Like what's going on?
Sesh is a nicotine alternative company. So we sell nicotine products, but we don't sell any traditional tobacco products. We don't sell any vape products. We have two business units. So we sell products in Canada. In Canada, they're regulated as nicotine replacement therapy. So for quitting, we sell a chewing gum product across Canada. And then in the US specifically, we sell a nicotine pouch product, and it's regulated differently as a recreational product. So two different classes. In both cases, we've isolated the nicotine molecule, and we have about 10 ingredients in our products. And that's a big difference from what we saw in the past.
It's a better product.
Better product than like the old, not so much in this world, but like what are we comparing against then when you say like it's a better product?
Well, so I think the white pouches have spread to the U.S. over the last 10 or so years.
Yeah, which I want to get into, like why am I seeing it all of a sudden?
In a very big way. When we compare ourselves to the other products out there, we think we have a much better profile in terms of flavor, in terms of brand, in terms of the actual product. It's softer on the gums. So, we've done a bunch of testing, and it seems that the consumers think the same way that we do.
Okay, so I want to get into what you just said, the white pouch, and say why I feel like it's all of a sudden, I mean, I didn't notice it even in 10 years. What's changed that's kind of driven all of a sudden this is really in the market? I seem to see it everywhere.
I think if you think of the product itself, it kind of is going with a lot of adjacent categories. It's very discreet. It's convenient. And, there's a lot of stigma around smoking, even now around vaping. Mm-hmm. If you pull out a vape at a dinner party, everybody's kind of looking at you rude, sideways. I was a snus user.
I don't know what that is.
It's tobacco pouches.
Okay.
And so, I played sports growing up. It's kind of part of the locker room culture. It's basically ground tobacco in a pouch. Similar to a nicotine pouch, the issue I always had was it leaves this weird like metal taste in your mouth, and then you also have to spit. And so the dosage form with nicotine pouches now is just so much better as an actual product class. You don't have to spit. Like Jake said, you put it in between your gum and your lip. The flavor is very subtle. And then in terms of the actual nicotine pouch category, we have a patented proprietary nicotine release on our actual pouch. So comparing it to, the other pouches that are available, yeah, we believe that we have a better product.
Just a quick note on that, right? This isn't a new thing. I mean, Zyn, the Zyn parent company sold, I think it was in 2022 for $16 billion, which was the same as WhatsApp, right? So it's a very big space. You're talking about one of the biggest spaces in the world, right? And this is kind of the cutting edge of what's happening.
Just being intact, like we think a lot of the numbers, and then consumer kind of comes under the radar, but at least the last like 18 months here in Austin, like the two biggest exits were consumer, Siete Foods and Poppy. And so like, obviously they can go for large multiples and some really interesting kind of numbers come out of it.
Jake can speak to this better than I can, but it seems like with everything that's happening with AI, CPG is a bit more protected versus SaaS. So I think it feels like a safer bet right now if I'm an investor.
We can't just throw into one of the AIs, making the CPG make mistakes. Like
it can happen. I think one interesting thing, listen, we're not consumer investors per se. We've done a few consumer things, like we did Oculus Rift, which is obviously consumer, but is very tech forward. And Palmer's obviously gone on to do a lot of great companies since then.
But you guys backed Anduril as well.
Yeah, we backed Anduril. We've done Airbor. We've kind of backed all of his different companies that he's built. But in the nicotine space in particular, it's incredibly regulated, which means that the companies that have a certain like license or sit in a certain place with the FDA trade at a very high multiple because there's high barriers to entry, right? So if you look at the multiple that Zyn exited for, any of the other companies in the space, I think the average multiple is between 10 and 15 times revenue, which is there's almost no other there is no other consumer product category in the world that trades like that, at least not that is legal.
That was one of the things, obviously why, Jake, I wanted you on, because when I think 8VC, I don't think consumer, right? That was the interesting thing, and you guys led it. Is it that you are almost thinking it more like your kind of bio and health adjacent kind of products? I wouldn't
say bio and health. I just think that there's something very special about the space, and there's a huge moat, right? Like if you're going to sell potato chips or popcorn or energy drinks, there's not a huge moat, right? It's really all about like marketing. There's actually a lot of really interesting science behind this. There's a very large regulatory moat, as I said, and a few other things that make this a very different asset class than other types of CPG investing, right?
So talk to me then about like the regulatory moat. Like how is this regulated? How is it different?
I'm going to turn that over to Max as I am not media trained in that space.
Yeah. So in 2022, there was a new regulation passed under the Biden administration that regulated synthetic nicotine. So synthetic nicotine wasn't captured by the earlier regulations.
Right. A good definition. When we say synthetic nicotine, it's basically nicotine derived in a lab, not out of a tobacco leaf.
That's
pharmaceutical grade nicotine molecule.
Got it. And so what happened is there was this flood of vape products using synthetic nicotine, and that's where you saw the puff bars of the world all come into the market. And so they had to basically close that loophole, and nicotine pouches got caught in the crossfire. And so that was back in 2022. We started the company in end of 2020, 2021. These products weren't very popular at the time. It was still very early. I had tried one in Sweden and knew that this was the future of nicotine in the category. So I was doing everything I could to get a product to market. Serendipitously, I met a guy by the name of Thomas Eriksson. He invented the formulation for Zyn, and he's a very well-known inventor in the space.
He is the godfather of the space.
Okay.
He did gum, patches. He basically created everything that has to do with nicotine.
He was one of the original developers of Nicorette at J&J.
And so back a ways now, yeah.
Yeah, and so met Thomas and developed a formulation with Thomas, and right at the same time, this is when these new regulations were coming into place. And so basically the rule was you had to be on market and you had to submit what's called a PMTA, which is basically your license to sell. And it's this really kind of big, arduous document that you have to submit. At the time, we were really bootstrapping the company. We'd done a small friends and family round just to get, our prototype and to get our initial PO. So we basically had to lock ourselves in a room for 3 months, get all the help we could on our initial PMTA submission. We submitted it at the final hour, right at the deadline, and that gives us coverage to sell while we're in queue with the PMTA. So while our PMTA is active, we're allowed to sell. Other companies that come in after that date have to wait the entire duration of the PMTA, which in Zyn's case took about 6 years. So that's the moat.
And they were just approved. They were the first product that was approved and the first flavored nicotine product, I believe, outside of menthol that was approved at the beginning of last year, right?
Yeah, at the beginning of the last year, first flavored nicotine product that was approved outside pharma was a nicotine pouch.
So, so my background is bio and health, and I'm a bio investor. 6 years is crazy, for FDA, what's taking so much, what are they looking at? This is, you have a visual, here's our trials, here's the way we think, and then you look at it and hopefully it's a year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the details, but my guess is that it's just a lower priority for them. FDA was really, and CTP, Center for Tobacco Products, was really focused on vapes. And there's this huge backlog of applications. When they created this deadline, everybody was trying to get their submission in at the same time, created this huge backlog. And so really the focus was on disposable vapes, which at the time was, a lot of youth were using these products.
Right.
And so that became the focus. And then there just wasn't enough resources to put towards these pouch applications. So it just hit the back burner.
Also, if you look at the average age of a vape user versus a pouch user, they're like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? And don't quote me on this, but I think it's like low single-digit percentage is underage with pouches, where vapes was like, I don't know what, like 30% or like 40%. It was crazy. Like kids in high school were doing it in class and all this stuff. And so a big part of what we want to do is we want to get people off of vapes, not go after new people.
I would think part of it is, I hate to say, like, why do kids smoke and vapes? It looks cool, right?
I mean, you're basically sucking on a computer.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But like here, like your whole point about it being discreet defeats the young in the best way. I mean, that good, like it defeats the whole positive aspect of the
our
of it.
demographic is late 20s, early 30s, like existing users, right?
Yeah. Our average age of our consumer right now is 32.
Yeah.
So,
which is like, very far from the average consumer of a puff bar or like one of these crazy Chinese vapes that are brought in on the black market.
So I feel like, as I saw, like just from as a consumer seeing, probably like vapes became suddenly everywhere and kind of seeing it. It feels like they've been dying off.
So as a category as a whole, the market for nicotine as a whole is going up, but vapes and cigarettes are basically going down and pouches are going up.
Okay, that's interesting because I wanted to ask that because it looks like obviously the overall trend would have gone down, but it sounds like the cigarettes and the tobacco products is what's going down, but then the nicotine market is growing.
I'm sure Max has all the exact numbers on it, but
yeah, so there's 60 million nicotine users in the U.S. Roughly 5% of them.
60 million?
60 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a lot higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, and
think about it. It's 2/3 of this room right now.
Fair.
And the majority are still cigarette smokers.
Right.
By far.
My cigar, like once a year, I think doesn't count.
Yeah.
Nicotine users.
And right now, nicotine pouches are only 5% of that total market. So about 3 million pouch users in the U.S.
Okay.
Roughly. And so it's still relatively small as the total size of the nicotine market. So that's why, too, this is still early days for the category. There's still a lot of growth behind it. I think that's what got ABC excited and especially other investors is not just the U.S., but also globally. If you think about, there's 1 billion smokers on the planet. And I believe that we can make the U.S. a smoke-free country, which is below 5% incident rate. The only country that has done that so far is Sweden. And funny enough, in Sweden, over 50% of people that use nicotine products are using white pouches. So we kind of have this crystal ball into how to get there.
So is Sweden unique, or is the kind of the white pouches broken into other places outside of the U.S.?
Well, that's basically where they're from. So they were basic, that's where they were first used, and they've been used there very heavily, like they're used in the U.S. for a very long time, right? So it's kind of like part of culture there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the government also is very pro, like these products aren't taxed at the same rate as other tobacco products. So I think, it's very unique to other countries. There's no other place that has really gotten behind these products like Sweden.
And do they have, obviously we talked about like the regulatory structure that happened here due to vapes, and then obviously the pouches got kind of caught into that. What's the regulatory structure there? Is it a lot more permissive? Is it,
Yeah, it's definitely more permissive, but there's still regulatory structure there that you have to go through. It's just not as arduous as the U.S. I mean, just as an example, we've invested over $15 million in our application. So imagine, we've raised just over $40 million to date for the entire company, and now you have to put 30% of that just into your regulatory application. So it's very, very hard to get a product to market in this category.
This feels, not an expert in CPG, but this feels from an investment point of view like you're needing to raise more money than if you were in a traditional CPG kind of company.
Yes and no, because it's got software style margins, which is great, especially if you build a good D2C business. We're obviously D2C, but we also sell in C stores as well. So, there's aspects of the company that are more like it and aspects that aren't.
Is it just the ability to manufacture, whether they're having that kind of margins, or like what
we
is
have fully gone vertical with all of our manufacturing. So we've opened up our own, all of our own plants, and everything's made here in the U.S. And so, once we got involved in the business, that was one of the things that we helped do. And it's really, helped change the company and how we can operate and how we can make sure we always meet like demand and stuff, and constantly iterate on the product and make sure it's perfect.
With the regulatory structure, and
Sorry, when I said iterate on the product, I meant make sure that the quality is as good as it can possibly be. Because oftentimes when you're going to like some third party to do co-packing or like whatever it is, they don't have the same attention to detail to make sure that the product is best in class, But when you have it vertically integrated, then you can definitely control that.
I think it's something we're seeing a lot more, is this vertical integration of these kind of companies. Yeah. And so I want to like bring the regulatory back. And I have my bio hat maybe too much on, but iterating in bio is extremely arduous. And the ways that you got to go
That's why
through.
I corrected myself and said I meant like, whether it's like the casing or the fact that it's cut perfectly, or that like the pouches don't come all jammed up, right?
Yeah.
Those are the
more the manufacturing,
more of the manufacturing and quality control.
Well, and you said it's kind of like a new flavor. Like how much, like is that easy to do through, or is that that's a pretty high like?
No, it's probably similar to what you're thinking, where we can't actually change anything about our formula. Otherwise, it's considered a new product, and we have to start over again in that queue.
And in this case, flavoring is considered a change in the product.
Well, this is where Max was really smart.
It's considered, but when we submitted that application, like I said, back in 2022, we had to think through, okay, where are we going to be in the next 3-5 years? And in that application, we had to submit all of the flavors. We had to commercialize all of the different flavors we eventually wanted to launch. So we submitted 72 different SKUs. It includes these bags. It included this raspberry lemon flavor. It included an unflavored product in case there was regulation. At the time, there wasn't any. And then now California has a flavor ban on nicotine products. So thankfully, we submitted an unflavored product prior to that deadline so that we could then go to market with it.
Which is actually great because you can use it while you're drinking wine and it won't affect the taste of the wine.
Thanks, Jake.
I see the stacking. So how are you seeing, so I want to then circle back. You said like the nicotine is growing. We're seeing things like alcohol consumption going down. A lot of these kind of similar-ish categories going down. Why do you think that the nicotine then is going up as a whole, right? Versus, you said like tobacco products are going down.
I'm very apprehensive to put this in the wellness category. At the end of the day, there are risks around these products. These products are for adults, but if I look at myself as a personal case, like, I don't drink anymore. I gave up drinking 3.5 years ago. I'm watching more of, I'm reading the label more. I'm looking at what I'm drinking, and I decided to switch from snus to these products. So I think there's an overall trend, people just looking more at what they're consuming. And one of the things I wanted to do at Sesh was be very transparent about what's inside our products, which is something I feel like historically hadn't been done in the category. I vaped for a long time. I could never figure out what the heck was in it. And so with our products, like I said, there's about 10 ingredients. We post all of our lab results on our site for every batch. So you could literally take one of your cans and then figure out and go to our website and see all the lab tests we've done on that particular batch. And so that to me is innovative in the category and something we can do within the regulations. That I think is important to kind of move this category forward. And for the consumer, like you said, that cares about what they're putting in their body.
We talked about the demographic right here. Like, I feel like I see the white patch a lot in the tech space. Like, we're just kind of running around. Is it just having people are running around with, or is that kind of the demographic that is seems to be leaning into this?
I think that's probably the loudest demographic because there are people who tweet and post things. But I think if you go to a truck stop or you go to any state that doesn't touch the water, that's where most of the sales are coming from. Right?
Yeah. And I'll give you a funny story. When we first launched the prototype, I sold it into 3 independent tobacco stores myself. And we had our very first PO. And I just wanted to get some validation or a signal that this is actually, there's something there. And a police officer actually bought the product, told everybody on the force about our product, and we ended up selling out in 3 weeks. And it was the entire police force that was buying our products. So that just gives you an idea of the different types of consumers. I didn't think that was our consumer, but it was just really interesting to see all the different types of consumers in this category. And a lot of times it's people in high stress jobs, people that, can't necessarily take a break or go for a smoke break.
When the fires were happening in LA, I think it was 2 years ago.
It's been 2 years already.
It might be 1 year.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Time is a thing that just kind of flies sometimes. But when they asked what they wanted, they said, we want water and we want nicotine pouches, which is crazy, right? Like, it wasn't anything else. It was, we want water and we need nicotine. And so, we hear that across fire, we hear that across EMS, we hear that across different PDs, we hear that across like the military, like we sell a ton into like the military and armed forces. But to go back to your question, I think, the tech companies using it just catches more headlines, right?
Sure.
Like the fact, like Palantir has a vending machine in their office, a bunch of other companies do. People reach out to us multiple times a day. We're out of vending machines.
Yeah, I've seen a few of the pictures of the vending machines.
Yeah.
The joke about like you need the Sesh and and AI, and there you go.
Yeah.
You're ready to you're ready to build now. So
like we actually didn't really know this, but there was an article that came out, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that was talking about Doge, and it was like there were Sesh cans all over the Doge office. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah,
which is just like people that want to just go just seem to consume this.
yeah. I do want to get, when I was kind of like looking at this, I didn't realize that as part of, I think, the investment in this, like you moved to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like,
That was a great story.
First, welcome. Glad you did.
Thank you.
But like, what kind of drove the move outside of like them telling you like you should get your butt down?
Yeah, well, I was already like 2 feet in when they told me to do that. So when we submitted the PMTA, we were having a really hard time breaking into the U.S. market. I understood the Canadian market very well. We were in 5,000 stores across Canada selling our gum product, but obviously U.S. was a much bigger prize and we could sell our hero product. Whereas in Canada, the regs wouldn't let us. And so I tried a couple different places and I kept hearing about Austin via podcast, via other founders.
No podcast that ever do anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just, for whatever reason, it was calling me, and I had emailed hundreds of VCs and investors and probably got 2.
Am I the only one that emailed you?
You emailed me, but that came later.
Okay, I want to hear more about like if you was to reach out that way. Like,
Yeah,
I definitely tell the story.
I got 2 warm-ish replies from folks in Austin, and I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go down there for a few months and see what happens. And so ended up driving from Vancouver to Austin, and had an Airbnb.
That's a schlep. We have planes.
That is a schlep.
It's a schlep, but I have my dog.
He's Canadian. It's okay.
Canadian.
When we moved from Southern California, we drove, and and like that was a lot.
Yeah. And ended up, I was here for a month, and in that month we closed our entire round. We were oversubscribed for that round, and then we also closed our first major retailer, which was Buc-ee's, and that was totally just a
You're done.
being
You're
on
in
the
Texas
ground.
now, like that very much. Yeah.
And then that's what drove us to getting introduced to ABC. We had already had some really good signals about Austin being the place to be. And so, yeah, when I met Jake and he was like, hey, part of this is you have to be down in Austin. I was like, say less, I'm ready.
Wait, so sorry, what round did you guys lead? Was it
Call it the like seed plus / early A.
Okay, so you closed the seed, and then you guys came in. And,
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And at the time too, I was so sick of raising money because it had taken us, months to close this thing. Finally, we got it done in Austin. And then I was just so focused on building. That's all I wanted to do. I hate raising money.
I love it.
And then one of our investors was like, hey,
You have a track record like you guys do. It's a little easier.
yeah, they're like, hey, you should meet ABC. It seems like they're really interested. And I was like, I don't know. I just want to focus on building, and that's it. And they're like, no, we really think you should take this meeting. And I took the meeting, and then that's when it was Jake and his analyst.
It's been love ever since.
Well, so talk to me about the capital stack then, like from Austin. Because one of the things that I found is like the CPG investors and the more traditional tech is really like are not. A lot of them like know each other, but they're very, very different. So like, is a lot more CPG investors? Were there others that kind of look like ABC? Like, what is you guys cap table kind of look like?
Yeah, it was traditionally more CPG. Like I said, Jake and ABC was our second formal VC. Before that, it was really friends and family, a few angels. And so it wasn't like, traditional CPG investors. And we had done some small rounds just to get enough to get our application in, to get, our first initial POs. So yeah, I'd say definitely leans way more to CPG, but lots of people are talking about the space, and especially with ABC, they've introduced us to a lot of folks that seem to be making that bridge too.
All the kind of things that CPG, wellness, a lot of kind of different things in this space. I think a little more like, we're now seeing a lot more alcohol brands kind of coming here as well. So like, how are you finding, how long have you been in Austin now?
About a year and a half.
Okay. So like, talk to me about like, how you're seeing this, how you're connecting in with like that scene versus like the tech scene and everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. Like Austin is such a great place to be. I tell everybody I can, because it just feels very dynamic. Everybody you meet here is doing something really interesting, whether it's tech, whether it's CPG, but there's a great community of other CPG founders and communities. Some of them are on our cap table. And so, yeah, it's just been really, really helpful in terms of building a business.
One thing that I would say about Austin, and listen, I moved to San Francisco in 2011, which is before a lot of people moved there.
Where were you coming from?
I was coming from Los Angeles. I just graduated college.
Okay.
And I had a tech company. When I moved to San Francisco, it was very much a positive sum ecosystem. People like, hey, how can I help you? And I think it's changed because there's so many people, like everyone's in the tech space now and everyone's trying to be an entrepreneur. And it wasn't like that back then. And so it's kind of turned into more of like a, why am I meeting with you now there? And Austin is very, very community oriented, and everybody is, kind of an open door policy and wants to help each other and wants to push Austin forward. And it has very similar vibes to San Francisco when I moved there, which I think San Francisco doesn't have anymore. I still think San Francisco is great, and I'm personally in a place where the door is always open because we have a bunch of capital, right? But for an early entrepreneur, it's much more difficult now, and Austin is very, very inclusive.
I've framed it as we have, open networks and a culture of helping. People want to do that.
That's just the Southern hospitality at its finest.
Yeah, it's funny because I born and raised in Southern California, lived there my whole life before coming here. One of my always big issues is any observation I make about Austin, I'm like, is it Austin? Is it a Texas thing? Is it a Southern thing? Or just a not California thing,
Someone said something great, which is like, Texas right now is like California in the mid 70s, which is that it's booming and everyone's trying to help each other. And, there's all these new frontiers. And I think California's, there's obviously amazing things happening with AI, and it's all coming out of San Francisco. And if you're building something and you're not in the if you're building something in the AI space and you're not in San Francisco, it's kind of like,
you better have a damn good reason why not.
It's like being an actor and living in Iowa. It's like, what are you doing? You need to live in LA or New York, right? And so, but I think there's a lot of other companies, a lot of hard tech companies being built in Austin. There's great CPG companies. There's obviously the SpaceX ecosystem here, the Elon ecosystem. And it's, it's a really, really great place. But if you are building AI and if you're on the cutting edge of stuff, you need to be in San Francisco.
I think there are first principles to ecosystems and that you want to line up to them. And I think you see it a lot sectorally. That's kind of the easy way to look at it, but I think it goes deeper than that. But like I've said on the podcast a lot of times, like you're building like foundational AI stuff, like get your ass to SF. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Like otherwise, like if you're very, very traditional bio, like here's my 20% better stent, here's my 15% therapeutic, go to Boston, capital stack, all that kind of stuff means there.
Like we have, most of our team is still in San Francisco. We're back in San Francisco constantly. I think Joe's on a plane there right now, or I think went maybe yesterday, and we're there constantly. Yeah. Like I'm going next week. And so, our core investment team is still based there. It's back to the times where you're hosting multiple dinners every week. You need to know what's happening. Things are changing daily. It's a really, really amazing time there right now.
So how do you think about I want to dig into that comparison point a little bit. And you guys are obviously invested more than Austin SF. I'm sure, I don't know the full portfolio, but probably Boston, New York, all the major hubs, right? How would you compare Austin both in, what's the flavor of the ecosystem? You were talking about the hard tech space and those kind of things. And obviously, you guys, Portco, Saronic just got major news as they went and rescued those.
It was amazing.
That was the coolest.
By the way, I was telling Max on the way here, I think, or no, it was someone I was on the phone with. We had mapped out everything that their product could do, and one of them was doing unmanned rescues. Yeah. Right over enemy lines or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think Joe tweeted out like one of those storyboards that you guys had done. Like literally, it was this.
It's really, really cool to see it happen.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact it was picked up like this, I mean, it's like the best marketing thing you could ask for. And it wasn't something that was like intentional. It was just they built a great product and it did what it was built to do.
Well, and I think the thing that shocked me, obviously I've been following Saronic, closely in these things, I've met Dino before. But the thing I didn't know, obviously seeing the contracts and that this is what we just kind of showed the world. I didn't realize it was deployed and it was out there. Like now it's like
no comment.
Yeah, I know. But now the answer's out there that for all the best possible ways, right?
But I to go back to what you just asked, I think like if you look at from an 8VC standpoint, right, about 30-ish% of what we do is building our own companies, right? And so Austin is a big focus for our build program, right? We encourage a lot of our build companies to be here. Obviously, you want to build around the best talent, but a lot of our build companies are more here, and more of our pure AI and software investments are based in San Francisco.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
And the partners that focus on build, spend a lot of time here as well.
What's an Austin build company besides like Harbor and Saronic that's here?
There is a company that is called Terminal.
Okay,
Terminal is basically using AI and ML with cameras to better optimize warehouse yards and gates and all that stuff. So, they're basically working with some of the biggest transportation companies globally. There's huge problems in theft right now. I was talking to a couple large CEOs of some of the biggest transportation companies globally, and they had I think $70 or $80 million of product stolen through organized crime rings, where they would basically forge documents, they would forge phone numbers, they would check into these warehouses and go pick up like a truck full of, let's just say iPhones or something. It wasn't actually iPhones, but some very high value good, and it was happening to the point where like they're losing tens of millions of dollars of merchandise quarterly, which is crazy. Right. So now you can think about how you can use technology to, make sure the driver is actually the driver, the DOT number is actually the DOT number. You can do all that just using, very inexpensive cameras. And so Terminal's about 2.5 years old and based here, incredible engineering team, some of the biggest customers in the world. So that's one that we're super proud of that's based here as well.
What do you think about from a talent perspective? I know like we've had, Alex Cohen from Hello Patient, which I know is one of you guys support codes. He was on with Will Johnson.
I love him.
From Guy. Yeah, Alex is great and very funny online.
Very funny.
And one of the things that we were talking about a lot was the gap in the 20-something-year-old either founder, operator. Like that's an area that we have a lot of issue with. And I think that when you think about, and then correct me if I'm wrong, like when you've got like the Saronics of the world, like they can get whoever they need, right? Like the talent at that point. But then obviously,
mind you, that company's only 4 years old. Right.
Yes.
So that's what they were 4 years back. Like obviously, you have like Dino, but his co-founder Vib was that, right? Mm-hmm. So those people are here. There's definitely a lot more of them in San Francisco and other spots, but I think people that want to live in Austin, that want the Austin lifestyle, the Austin culture are here. And the people that want San Francisco, you're never going to pull them out of San Francisco. Right.
It's, look, if you get the people who want families who want like the 30 and above, like we're awesome at, like that's what a lot of us move here for these kind of the reasons.
But I think like a lot of the people building companies that aren't in the cutting, like on the cutting edge of AI are those people, right? They're people who have done this once or twice before and are on their second or third company, right? And they want to be here and they're intentionally basing it here.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think it's like, two kids at a UT going and building something and right.
Right. No, exactly. That.
But that's okay.
That persona is the one we're not getting, right? But it's your point about everything like Travis Callan, like bringing Adams here to like everything, to base to, all the totally. Ones that are going big.
And like, listen, I think San Francisco will always be number one. It is number one now. It's always been number one. And so Austin is its own ecosystem and it's a great hub, but like you need connectivity to San Francisco if you're building something in the tech space.
I'm going to push a little on that, only because I think I hate the whole like next Silicon Valley versus first. It's first Austin. Like
there's only one Silicon Valley.
There is only one Silicon Valley. Just like there was one industrial Manchester. There was one Renaissance. Like you don't want to. It's the next thing. It's different, right? Like, and I don't think that you want to. Like, if I can do anything, it would be kill that stupid Silicon Hills name because I hate that more than
it was the same thing in LA when they were calling it like Silicon Beach. In like 2012. It's like it is not that. It will never be that. I think LA is having a big moment with hard tech and like defense, right? Everything coming out of
So glad
El
they
Segundo.
didn't call it Silicon Gundo and just went
Yeah.
with like that. Like they understood
Because it's
they understood it.
because it's its own place,
Yeah.
and it's building its own thing, right?
Well, and you saw the same thing in New York. For that slow time period, it was Silicon Alley, right? And then I think somebody woke up and was like, no, it's New York City. Like
It's New York, and they're building really cool consumer companies.
right. What do you think in terms of, as you guys have been here for a number of years now, like AVC's role, like obviously you guys are one of the bigger, if not the biggest fund in, in Austin, like the role that you guys play in kind of the ecosystem, besides just building and funding companies.
I mean, listen, the ecosystem is building and funding companies, right? But I think we do a lot. We have our doors open. Anytime somebody comes to town, we always host them. We built our office to constantly host things. We do probably events there every other week, whether it's for a portfolio company, whether it's for founders, whether it's somebody coming to town. My partner, Joe, has a beautiful home and always hosts people. I think I saw you. Was that on Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we do everything we can to foster the ecosystem to make sure that people are always like meeting each other, and we're always looking to do more, and we're always looking to like improve. But I think putting our time into this ecosystem is kind of the most important thing that we do.
What is the balance between how many of you guys are? I know it's like here versus.
I think it's like 30 here and maybe 50-ish in San Francisco.
Okay.
Give or take 5 people.
Okay.
A couple people in New York that spend most of their time here in San Francisco, but are technically based in New York. But yeah.
Yeah, my brother also has a company, and I remember when ABC first invested, and it was probably like 3 or 4 months in, and I was, meeting with Jake every day. He was introducing me to his entire network, which is something I think is, Jake in particular, superpower is he's incredibly connected and can kind of get a hold of anybody. And 8BC as well is so good at fostering those connections and helping founders. But I called my brother and I asked him, I was like, is this normal? And he was like, this is definitely not normal. And I was like, okay. So that
I just love you.
Yeah, that just shows you the power that they have and the ability to help founders build relationships, which, has been so helpful in building the company.
We are not protective over our network at all once you're in the ecosystem, right? So anything that we can do to help any of our portfolio companies, we do.
Yeah, one of the things that I think that we talk about that kind of open culture, and like I think the people who have been successful in Austin, both like long term, embrace that. I think there's been 2 shifts. Now I moved in 2020 by the same time like you guys all did, but so it's hard for me to necessarily fit before. But I think the 2 things that have shifted with all of the, we'll call it the Silicon Valley folks and New York folks who kind of came in, is one, I think there are more moonshot. Right? Like it was always, you didn't have the CD level of companies. You didn't have these like, we're going to go change the world. It was like the B2B SaaS, the software, like kind of very much that kind of feeling of that secondary hub versus now it's things of like, we're going to go, create the naval prime. We're going to go decentralized bag. We're going to create, 3D printed houses, whatever. Like we're going to go solve giant problems. And I think that's been a bit of a mindset that's changed in the last like 6 years.
I think having Elon's companies here is a huge thing, right? If you look at like, there's obviously the famous story of like the PayPal mafia and, all these really top companies that are built. What ends up happening is when these companies reach a certain size, you have the top 10 or 15 people leave at some point and go build their own businesses, right? And you're having a lot of really great talent that's at SpaceX or Tesla or whatever it is that has this kind of Elon-like mindset of like, I can do anything, right? And those engineers and people have either stayed or left, but when they leave, they're typically leaving to go build a new company or to join something that's being built, right? And so I think that mindset is very infectious, and that's what's also caused a lot of the companies here.
There's quite a few. The SpaceX one you can like judge, but also a lot of Palantir and Anduril folks as well,
Totally.
Which is somewhat surprising because as far as I think they have like very small number of people that are here, but like essentially Palantir and Anduril aren't here. Right.
Well, Palantir does have an office here.
Yeah, but it's very small, right? I think
mostly sales.
Yeah, and same thing with Anduril, right? Like it's like maybe a couple people here or something, but not enough to be where you have talent flowing off of that office kind of situation.
Yeah, but I think that Austin is kind of becoming known for that, right? And so it's going to attract those type of people. Also because like, when you build a technology company or when you build any company, it's really about talent, right? And so there's a great talent pool here. Now it's a different kind of talent pool, but the people that, are focused on those type of problems tend to be attracted to Austin.
What do you see, as we're recording this, I think that the SpaceX IPO is tomorrow. What do you see that as a, accelerant effect in Austin?
I think, well, it depends, what part of the ecosystem you're thinking of. It's going to absolutely, or it's going to be very good for the real estate market.
People are like, we need to get all of the labor for remodels hooked up now because it's about the remodel market's going to go crazy.
I think it's really good for the ecosystem here, right? There's going to be a lot of great angel investors here now. There's going to be people that, want to go build their next company. I think it's a net positive, right? It also people get stock options in these different, companies. And when you see it actually work and people, get what they're promised, what they've been working for all these years for, and it actually pays off, is a very encouraging thing for the entire ecosystem, right? And so it just proves that taking equity in businesses that you're building is a great thing to do if you really, really believe in the company, right? And now, if you look at SpaceX, that's obviously at the biggest scale possible, right? But, everyone that works at Sesh has equity, and, at all these other companies. And, it's just going to make people work harder and just double down and kind of want to take actual ownership positions in these businesses more.
What do you think about it from the VC actually finally getting DPI, and we've had this kind of tightened space for so long, and with them, and looks like OpenAI, Anthropic are also going this year. And
I think SpaceX is interesting because a lot of people did SPVs on it, right?
I've been surprised at the number of people I know who are in SpaceX that I wouldn't have thought were in.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of the capital coming back is through these kind of random vehicles, which is obviously just great anyway. Right? It's always good to have more capital floating around, like Valor is here, and they're, I think they're one of the top holders there, which is obviously great. But listen, it's going to be positive for the ecosystem overall everywhere, right? I mean, people from all over the world are invested in SpaceX and are going to make a ton of money from it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's an interesting year. Also interesting. We were talking about. I was trying to do some math on this, but we talked about SF being ahead in the venture world. And some of the numbers are crazy. I think it was OpenAI's $110 billion in Q1. And just if those, XAI, now obviously through SpaceX, Anthropic, OpenAI, assume they all go public this year, right? Which looks like it's happening. You're going to see those crazy venture numbers come down just because the biggest, I think it was, I'm still getting the numbers right, but 30 or 40% of all funding in the last 2 years went to 4 companies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it'd be an interesting data set to look at if you take those 4 companies out, right? But those are obviously, those are the biggest companies in the world now.
Right.
And if they're not the biggest companies now, they're going to be very soon, right? Yeah. And so, I see people using Claude everywhere. I mean, it's a core part of almost every company. We use it at Sesh, we use it at AVC. Everybody uses it now, right? So, I mean, these things are only going up. Yeah,
and they continue to shift. I mean, and it's obviously if you want to call it, just the whole thing, the whole guardrails with Fable 5, and that interesting, especially someone who's in bio is I don't know if I can. I haven't been I asked it about it. I didn't get the whole hi, you've been kicked off. That's I didn't get that bad, but it'll be interesting to see kind of the competition. And I mean, it was funny because I know just from me personally, I remember I want to say whatever, it's maybe a year ago, 85% ChatGPT, and then it's a little bit on Claude. And then it really was, when Gemini 3.1 came out.
Just a better product.
Yeah, and all of a sudden I was I
canceled my OpenAI subscription.
So now I play in all, not just playing all of them, and you have different use cases, but there's no, there's no 30 or 40, at most it's 30 or 40% in one of them, right? Yeah. Kind of situation. I'm I'm using this for the thought. And obviously one of the things is, when memory becomes a lot more, portable, then it really becomes if I have memory over here, then be okay, you not need to know about me, now go do your thing, right? Yeah. Which is really funny because it was, I think that, it was Gemini 3.1 that got me to switch. And now probably Gemini is the one I use the least because it's it's definitely not as good as where it was. But then I do want to play with Omni a little bit more because some of that. But yeah, it's fascinating to kind of see how all these things go.
Time. Things are changing so fast.
Yeah. And then it's just interesting to see my kids and use it. My oldest is essentially speed running being a junior programmer, and he's 12.
Wow.
And so
I have no kids, but I hope my kid is a crazy programmer.
Yeah, it's and it's just been the ability, right? we did a whole episode my two older kids go to Alpha School, and
That's awesome.
It's been great for them, and just to opening up what they can do and everything, and it's been amazing to kind of see. And it was really funny actually because
When did your kids start there?
so my oldest has been there. This is his first year, and then my daughter was there just in the last session.
And how old are they?
12 and 10, and then my youngest goes to a different school.
I think it's such a great concept.
Yeah.
It's
I
phenomenal.
think Joe's an absolute beast.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. He sat where you were sitting, and we did a
Nice.
We did a really. It was the first time he'd ever done like a parent episode.
He's the actual principal of the school, right?
Yes.
My question for him is how do you scale Joe as a principal, right? And how do you make sure that the Alpha School here is as good as all the other Alpha schools, right? Because he's obviously, he's a brilliant, one-of-a-kind guy, and he spends so much time on it, which is so impressive. And so how do you make sure that all the schools are as good as the one that he's operating?
So
I'm sure he has an answer for it.
I'll give you my thought. The answer is I think also principal. I know it's the term he uses, but obviously I think he's the CEO of the whole thing, right? Like that's really the
But
role.
he's like meeting with the kids here, right?
He is a guide for the high school. Like that's a special, like they're his beta testers. But I think it's twofold, right? So obviously one of his huge focus is the platform itself, right? The software platform, and that's the one scale. And then I think back what you just said, it's talent, right? Like the guides, which is their teachers, they run their workshops and really the motivational model, like it's huge. Like that is probably the other big thing is making sure that you have the right people doing these kind of things. And it's just been insane. Like and it's amazing. I think for my son, like the biggest opening is not so much like he's accelerating in academics, doing amazing and all that kind of stuff, but just like the motivational self-discovery learning. And so like he jumps back and forth to ChatGPT and Claude and building all that stuff. And so just being a good parent, I was like, can I just see what you're asking me?
Yeah,
what you're asking the AI. Sometimes when he throws out like the programming stuff, which I don't have programming background, I'm like, I have no idea at this point. You know this stuff better than I am.
That must be surreal to see, by the way.
Yeah.
Like your 12-year-old programming.
Well, it's all part of it now. It's like, I've got a couple things we need to build. Could you just build it for me? So, but no, I think the funny one was I was going through it and it was like, he had one was like, what's the Plato's cave, and asking like to explain the allegory of the cave, and it's like asking about like game theory, and then asking about does it break? I remember this one, and I hope it doesn't get mad at me for saying this. It was like, does it break the laws of physics if we create a perfect world simulator that can track evolution?
I mean, the one that we're all in right now?
Yeah, we can get into simulate. You ever watch Devs?
No.
It's a series on it. Same guy did like Ex Machina. Phenomenal series.
Yeah,
I absolutely recommend it.
cool.
Yeah, and it's all about like basically building a simulation. Is there free will? All that kind of stuff.
Do you think we're living in a simulation?
Okay, so it's like, no, here's my problem with the simulation theory. So there is an external force that created the universe and controls all of it. It's a really roundabout way to talk about God. Like, I think both simulation theory and I think that a lot of the push into the consciousness stuff right now, and they're like, we're consciousness, this thing sits outside your body. I'm like, we have a word for this. It's called the soul.
Yeah.
And so like, it's these I don't want to be religious, but I'm going to talk about the concepts that we've been talking about for a very long time. Yeah. So look, I'm Jewish. I do have, I have faith in God. So I do have faith. And so that's when I see this kind of stuff, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like you got a weird way to trying to hold on to being an atheist while still like doing this.
I know this isn't like the kind of where this conversation or podcast is going, but for me,
these are the way these always go.
Okay. I just got married last week, and thank you. And kids are obviously something that we hope to have soon. And I think about it all the time. It's like, okay, how do you, raise a child in this modern world and have them, be in tune with everything that's happening, but still grow up with dirt under their fingernails and like climbing trees and building forts and all this stuff. And Max has a very cute young daughter. She's what, 1?
Yeah, and we were looking at Alpha School, and I was seeing that 2 hours is dedicated to software, but the rest of the time is exactly what Jake's talking about, which I found so fascinating.
Yeah,
and I'm almost happy that like I'm watching this whole kind of like I guess trial period of kids right now to see what happens, to figure out what best practices are and what should probably avoid. So it's just a crazy thing that I've been like thinking about recently after you get married, which is like, okay, how do you actually raise a kid and how do you bring them up so they're great kids and they just understand what's happening, but don't lose the things that are great about the world right now, right? And you see kids glued to their iPads, and it's like you want kids to grow up in nature and do all this stuff too. So it's just it's something that's been on my mind.
Yeah, my kids aren't as outside oriented as probably would like at times, but no, and that's I think one of the positive about like Austin is just like the education, experimentation, and innovation here. Whether it be Alpha School, whether it be UATX, whether it be all these kinds of things that are kind of being built, that just gives us like the change. I mean, we talk, like my wife and I joke all the time, like the phrase we use is like only in Austin, like the opportunities that we've had and just the ability, like we wouldn't have the opportunity for Alpha School if we were still in San Diego. Now maybe we would have in a couple of years, as they continue to expand. But I don't know, like would have, it's funny because we saw it. I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago, and we weren't quite sure, and then like just we were getting a little bit frustrated at the school that we were at, and we were in a good school district, So
yeah, they're just so far behind. Like the fact that people are still teaching like marketing, for example, it's like okay, like your entire marketing class should just be somebody learning how to use AI to make themselves more powerful and reach more people and do it more effectively, not.
That's the key. I think what you just said right there, which is make themselves more powerful. It's because anybody who's like, yeah, I used ChatGPT and got through all this stuff. Oh, you used it as a crutch.
Yeah.
And like that's not a thing. But if you use it to become super powered, that's what the thing. Like I hate the always like the doomer like it's gonna take all the jobs and so forth like that. I'm like, no, we're gonna. I also don't like human in the loop just as a phrase. I was like, it's super powered humans.
Yeah.
And like that's what we're kind of creating.
That's the biggest thing that like, and that's what worries me about. A lot of the public schools and stuff is it's like it takes so long to change the curriculum. Like, this stuff is changing constantly, right? And like I just joined the board of a new program at my alma mater, USC, which is like their school for AI. And the thing that I'm pushing them on is like, okay, like you need to change the curriculum, every semester,
right?
Because what you taught last semester is not going to be the most up to speed thing now, and you need to teach these students how to actually use this to like leverage themselves, not just get through school, which is exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
And so, listen, I think people don't know the answer. They're trying to figure it out, but there's obviously a lot of kids out there and we need to figure it out fast. Otherwise, you're just going to be putting a bunch of kids into like society that don't know how to like operate with the tools that are at their fingertips right now.
And we've been failing the kids for a long time.
Totally.
Like the scores have been going down or the objective scores are going down and the subjective have been going up. They're like the highest GPAs and like, lowest SATs. I'm like, something's wrong with that.
But you talked about the draw to Austin earlier. When we first moved here, it was like everybody we met was our age, ready to have kids, had come from New York, LA, or San Francisco. And so it was so nice to come here because everybody is looking to meet other people, which we hadn't really experienced before. And so I think you're exactly right on the types of people that are here. I mean, even on our block where we live, it's like every other day I see a stroller going down the street with a new family. So yeah, I think it's a great place to be if you're.
It's funny, like in the cultural nature of it. I thought so when we were in Southern California and we had 3 kids. Like we were on like the edge. Like we knew like one family that had 4. And I always further say, like, I'm sure I'm in a bubble, like, you got who we hang out with and everything. But, like, we moved here, and 3's the average. Like, we know lots of people with 3, a number who have 4, or some that have more. And it's a very...
People with 6 or 7.
Yes, yes. But, yeah, and so I think that's it's a very different, a very family kind of oriented environment that I think that people are like, we want to... And I think it becomes a very... I think we're much more like future oriented. Like it drives me a little bit crazy with Austin and the kind of the nostalgia porn and like the weaponization of like Austin, keep Austin weird. Like, oh, it's great, in the 90s when I was in the slacker culture. It's like, oh no, it's great in the 70s and this thing, or like it's usually when I got here.
It's always better in like the previous generation according to them.
Right, and my point is,
I think it's pretty great right now.
Well, I actually think the best day in Austin is tomorrow, right? Because I think we're continuing to build all these things. Do we have issues? Yes, like,
everywhere has issues.
Yeah,
There's always issues.
We have the homeless stuff that we need to take care of, and then the city council that needs to stop the things that it's doing. Infrastructure is.
You should ask Joe about that. I think he's coming on soon, right?
Yeah, coming on. Yeah, I'm sure he has.
He'll have a lot of.
Has a few opinions on that. Yes,
I'm sure he'd be happy to share them.
Yes,
if you ask him or not.
Yeah, look, I think we just got to like keep pushing, and I think we can make these kind of changes and these kind of things. But I think it's
like we're doing everything we can to help. Like we hosted something for the APD, was it like a month ago, where we brought kind of the chiefs and all the different kind of senior people there and asked how we can help and what we can do. So we're putting together a small group of kind of younger business leaders. I think a lot of the Austin old guard has a lot of connectivity to them, but we're asking, hey, what can we do to help? Can we show you guys different pieces of like technology that can be helpful to what you're doing? How can we like kind of help these people find different places to live? Because the cost of living has obviously gone up, and it's very hard if you're an entry-level officer like to find a great place to live here. So, I think it's great that people here are giving back and, trying to find ways to help the community as well.
Are you guys investors in Flock?
We are not, but I'm a fan of them, and I think Garrett's great.
Okay, so that slightly puts you on the spot, but obviously given like the ABC's connections to Palantir and like some of the stuff with Flock, what is the obviously the shooting that happened and how like they turned off Flock, whatever, like a year ago, and we would have caught them, and they went to Manor, and like they got caught like instantaneously because the Flock was on there. What is the bull case, or from your perspective, everyone freaks about like privacy, surveillance, like how would you answer that question? Why?
I think having license plate readers and cameras is not an invasion of privacy. I think if you're living in Austin, we should know what's happening, right? And I think that it's ridiculous that it was turned off. And I think that we should be leveraging technology, not pushing it out.
I've been pushing to try to get like the Flock guys to come on because I want to talk to them about that. Like
Garrett is great.
Yeah, like I saw him on a couple other things, and so
I'm happy to put you in touch with him if you
please
want.
do. Yeah. Yes, that'd be great.
Great guy.
But yeah, I mean, I think they also have like I may be wrong, like I don't know, like good tracking. So if people are abusing it, like the system, and you can then go like I'm very pro police, and if you got and bad cops, you need to,
Totally.
Yeah. Take
everyone should be held to the same standard.
Yeah.
You should. Yeah. And so I think there's obviously bad actors everywhere, right?
They have a high trust society. Is you punish the people that are bad wherever they are, and then everyone says like, great, we all have this together.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is people out of the gate think that the police are doing the wrong thing, and I think that people need to come out of the gate thinking that they're doing everything they can to protect society, which is true. And the biggest problem that the police have everywhere right now is that people are not giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Assume positive intent.
Yeah.
Right.
And these guys are coming in, they're getting paid way less than they should, and they're putting their lives on the line. Mm-hmm. And sure, like shit happens. Right. And I think you need to give them the benefit of the doubt. Right. And it's something that upsets me a lot that people don't, because I want more officers. I want them to get paid more. I want them to feel good. Every time I see an officer, I stop and I say thank you. And one of the things that, like I said, we brought together about 40 people, and we asked the chief, we said, hey, what's the best thing that we can do? He said, first and foremost, just say thank you and, stop them and make them feel good. Right. And like, that's a crazy thing to hear. Like these people are putting their lives on the line, and that's the biggest thing that we can do to help. Is crazy, and everybody should do that.
Right.
Like
the problem is the loudest voices right now are the crazy people, basically.
Yeah, but even just going and like when you see somebody that is in like uniform, just saying, "Hey, thanks for keeping our city safe."
Yeah,
it goes a long way.
I do the same thing. So
yeah.
I'm 100% with you. But yeah, no, I think Austin's amazing. I think tomorrow's going to be better, and it's on all of us to kind of keep doing that.
Yeah,
you got to have a positive attitude.
So I always like to wrap with kind of the final question here is like, what is kind of for both of you guys, and you can take different angles on it, the kind of the next, what's the next like trend, tech, something coming up that's kind of a critical hinge point going forward?
Citrus flavored sesh.
Yeah, that's
important. It's very important. Yes. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I think for us, really, it's continuing to build our business, right? We're in such a critical phase, especially with where we're at with FDA and regulatory wise. I think that these products are incredibly important for public health. And I think that it's important to have independent brands like Sesh in the network, not just these huge incumbents. So if we get through this phase, we'll be one of the first independent brands ever to get this authorization. And so for us, that's a really big hinge point that we're looking at kind of in the next 12 months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Max, Jake, thanks for coming to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having us.